If you're thinking about buying a new home, you probably have lots of questions. Well, not to worry. Your questions are probably very common among house hunters. Our KC Live home and real estate expert is here to answer some of those likely questions about contingent contracts. First, I must ask, what is a contingent contract?
So a contingent contract is going to be one that's contingent on the sale of another home. So this is going to come into play with a homeowner or someone's shopping for a house that currently owns a home. And maybe you're wanting to upgrade or move to a new home.
Got it. Okay, so let's get to those questions. Now, first, how does buying the new house work, say, when we need the money from the sale of our current home to finance our new home?
So the way that would work is, first of all, we're going to make it contingent on the sale of your old home. We're going to work with so I'll work with your lender and provide them a copy of the contract on the sale of your home and make sure they're in the loop to know that, you know what, that mortgage is going to be taken care of by the sale. Then we're going to make sure that we line up a title company. The same title company that's going to close you on the sale of your house will be the same title company. We'll make sure we use the same one on the new one. So you can sit down the same day if you'd like and close on one and close on the next. And the other thing is we'd make sure that we want to have your closing date be the same. So the day you close and get the money from the sale of your old house will be the same day that you close and put the money down on the new house. So it kind of all happens right next to each other. Almost like turning and signing one document to the next a little. And that allows us to just make sure, and we want to make sure that the buyer on your old house closes really early in the morning. There's a lot of little things like that I do a lot behind the scenes that people aren't aware of, that we say, hey, your buyer's closing at 8 a.m., okay? And then you'll be right behind them closing on the new transaction. And then another thing that we often do is make sure that we just are communicating along the way. But it's definitely an easy possibility to just go ahead and use the money, it happens all the time. You
want to make it as pain-free as possible.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, so I asked you this earlier. What is the deal about, I thought you had to move twice, but it turns out you don't, because what if the buyer wants to take possession, you know, as soon as they close?
Right, no, so that's definitely, there's ways around that as well. It's all in negotiations. So one way would be that when we're negotiating on the buy of the new house, you've sold your house, we go out and we look for the new one. We want to, in the contract, negotiate that. You're going to close on a date and get possession the same date. But then on the sale, when we're negotiating that deal, every time I've got sellers that are selling, I want to make sure that I try to negotiate a little time between when they close and when they turn possession over to their buyers. So we may say, okay, we're fine to close on the 15th, but we're going to hold possession until the 18th because we need some time to get our stuff together. And you usually are not allowed to move belongings into the new house until you have closed and provided them their money. Sometimes it is possible, though, to negotiate possession prior to closing. It's a lot about your agent going and negotiating and explaining the story to say, hey, you know what, we've got a couple different things lined up here. And, you know, my buyers would really appreciate if they could move things into the garage or just so that they don't have to move twice. Very doable not to move twice. There's other things that can be done, like bridge loans and other things that are definitely a possibility, but most often people don't have to move twice.
Shoo.
A hectic few days,
yeah.
But they're not moving twice.
No. Okay, so what if, God forbid, the contract falls through? Are you still obligated to buy the house?
Yes. So no, this is a question I get all the time, and you've got very nervous people because they're going, okay, wait a minute, we don't want to be on the hook for the new house if for some reason our sale falls through. No, you've got an out. So it being contingent, your house has to make it through inspections, appraisal, and close. You have to get your money and close in order for you to be forced and locked into the new.
Now, last question. Do we have to have a contract from a buyer on our current house before we can make an offer on the new house?
So this is an old consulting term that I use all the time. It depends. So in this market, I would say that I've recently had where we've had a couple different offers come in, and sellers have choices. And it is a little riskier for a seller to accept a contingent contract because there's just a lot more risk involved if your buyer is going to make it all the way to closing. But you don't have to. So if you want to do it where you find a house that maybe is a little dated and needs a little love and not everybody's fighting over, and that seller says, I'm tired of showing the house, we could by all means write something contingent on your house selling that has not sold. And what we do is we say, give me 90 days to get my house under contract, or give me 2 months to get my house under contract and 3 months to get it closed. There's all negotiated terms in there, and then a lot of communication and a lot of me showing, look, I'm marketing my butt off over here. I'm working really hard to get it sold, but it is a possibility. There's a lot of strategies that go into play too, Michael, because you can get kicked out of that contract. And so there's a lot of things that we put into play to make sure that we protect you and you get that new house.
So when it comes to all the fine print, you got our backs, right? That's what I like to hear. All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Hey, let's throw things over to Miss Michelle.